and it's a pleasure to engage with the leader of the New Zealand Public Party. Billy, now your professional entertainment name, and I'm an expatriate Aussie with a big heart, is TK Jr., but you got a beautiful last name. It deserves the proper pronunciation and mana. How do you say your last name?
So thank you for that welcome. It's Billy Te Kahika. Thank you.
Yes. Hey, look, you're a celebrated musician in your own right, but your dad's a bit of a legend. He's a bit of a blues icon, isn't he?
He certainly is. Yes, we have a wonderful history in New Zealand music, and Dad is certainly one of the legends of that. And some of your listeners will remember a wonderful late '60s, early '70s New Zealand rock band called Human Instinct, of which my dad was the seminal rock guitar hero of the era. So, and then of course my own career. Speaking of wonderful Aussies that I've played with, which would include Jimmy Barnes and Ian Moss and people like that, really good friends of mine. And
so what does your dad make of you now? I mean, this is all very sudden, and this is the purpose of the interview. What does he make of you being the leader of a meteoric rise with momentum on the rise, a political leader, the leader of the New Zealand Public Party? What does he make of all this?
He's pretty much like me, pretty stunned. My dad is very much of a relaxed nature, and likes to kind of sit back and enjoy life and not be too stressed about anything. And so he's very, very surprised. I think he's quite proud. He understands what I'm standing up for, and certainly shares the concerns I have. But it's one thing to have those types of concerns. It's another to actually stand up in the public like I'm doing right now and address them.
Billy, let's abbreviate things and put it in context.
Sure.
It's the lockdown of COVID-19. You're a smart guy, charismatic. You do some research. You have some major concerns about what happened, not only the curtailment of freedom, but COVID-19 and the whole thing. You had an epiphany moment. You did research, and now you got a political party, and you're on a roll, and there's momentum. You had a big crowd last night, and I've been watching the videos. People have not only been going out in droves, hundreds of people, you've been getting standing ovations. So what is going on? In as few words as possible, tell me your story. What's behind this political party, New Zealand Public Party?
Well, I think number one is that the New Zealand public themselves started to suspect that there were some pretty key concerns around the ever-changing narrative around the COVID-19 health issue. And then, of course, with the addition of the COVID-19 health response bill, the situation surrounding the actual lockdown and the legality of that and how that was challenged by Crown law really started to get people thinking. So it got me thinking, and I did some intense research. I'm research and investigation trained, and I was able to apply those skills to number one, assess data that was available around the COVID-19 health crisis and the medical basis that was framed on, and secondly, to address also the legal issues around freedoms and rights and the erosion of those, and then thirdly, how that could be part of a global rollout of a
now Billy, I've done my research on you. You're clearly charismatic with the X Factor. You're a musician. You're succinct. You're entrepreneur. I could see that you got the charisma and the drive to form a party, and you're getting great buy-in. But why a political party? Why not just use your celebrity and your gifts to lobby or make the news? Because there are mainline media in the main probably is not going to give you much a look in, because you're interviewed by Peter Evans. You're probably seen as almost marginalised or into conspiracy theories. So why a political party? Why not just use your mana and your profile to raise the issues?
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I did. Exactly that, Brian. And what happened was almost 700,000 people dialed into the information that I was providing. And believe me, I've never had any plans to be in politics. Have no desire and had no desire to be a worker at the Parliament, and certainly had no plans for it to.
Billy, was this in response to tweets or Facebook postings that you had this avalanche or overwhelming response?
Yeah, sure. Literally thousands of emails, thousands of Facebook messages, everything that you can imagine, every type of platform. I then went on Māori television and did quite a good interview about my position, why I was thinking that there were problems with freedoms and democracy in New Zealand and the basis for that. And really that really set fire a whole tinderbox of people wanting me to stand. But I can assure you, Bryan, that my wife certainly didn't support it. I didn't support it, and it took me a number of weeks to decide that I would actually stand up for something so important as rights, democracy,
Because
and
I looked at
government
your
accountability.
CV, and it was only a few years ago you were flanked by Helen Clark at
Yes,
the UN, and you were the man. You were organising this International Indigenous Music
Correct.
Festival, and you've been the managing director of Indigenous Business Consult, hugely respected, and so for you to go from that to fronting a small but dynamic New Zealand public party is a bit of a shock, isn't it?
It certainly is, but what it does do, it does tell you that the New Zealand public themselves, in large numbers, are not happy with this current government.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'm trying to work out why you're getting hundreds of people supporting you and standing ovations. I mean, clearly you're a good talker. Now, I saw at one of them, and I'm not trying to slag you or marginalise you, but at one of them, you were Bishop Bryan Tamaki was there, and on Māori TV endorsed you. And then you got the interview, and it was like 90 minutes with Peter Evans, the celebrity chef, and he was showcased recently with Liz Hayes on 60 Minutes. So is it a religious party? I mean, are you a man of God, or is it just that your message is appealing to so many diverse groups?
Yeah, well, number one, it's a political party. I don't believe that religion and Christianity goes in with politics whatsoever. So I don't agree with Christian political parties. I don't believe that they should exist. Secondly, I am a Christian, and I'm very upfront and proud of that. I come from a very diverse spiritual background, with my mum being a Buddhist, dad being a follower of the Krishna divine light principles. Sure. And so I grew up with a very, very broad respect for rights and freedoms, and that includes the right to believe what you will on a religious or spiritual basis. But just an answer to your question, mentioning Bryan Tamaki, I don't know Bryan very well, but I know that he's got a political party. And on the night of the launch, what I did to show solidarity to the public and to display solidarity amongst minor parties, I invited all of the minor parties to come and get some free time on my platform at my event to speak, and that was what Vision was.
I noticed in a recent presentation you allowed Sue Gray with the Outdoors Party to have a bit of a look. And my concern is this: there's a lot of what you're saying that is similar to the New Conservative Party and the Outdoors Party. Aren't you going to split the vote? Now, I know you have this advisory board, but I'm concerned that you're all going to get about 1% or 0.6%, and you're all going to miss out. So given you're the most eloquent, why don't they all get behind you? Or do you think you should all get behind Leighton Baker with the New Conservative Party, because they've probably got more money and they've got a better infrastructure?
Well, I wouldn't say they've got better infrastructure, and we haven't even begun to fundraise yet. I think the number one thing is, I think all those parties, they're very, very narrow in their appeal. Number one, they've got the pillar program that they have in terms of their policies is very, very narrow and it's very niche. But the concerns that are most important to New Zealanders right now are my concerns, are their concerns. That's rights and freedoms, democracy, government accountability and transparency. And none of the other parties are standing for that. And that really surprises me. It disappoints me, because I wouldn't be sitting here at the front of a massive movement. I'd be at home with my beautiful family, sure. Enjoying my family life that I love so dearly. But none of the parties were doing that. And I guess to give you some examples, just a brief one example, when one of the other minor parties that you mentioned, when they post something after 2 hours, they have 26 views, no shares, maybe one or two comments. When I do that, I have 30,000 views, 1,000 shares, 1,500 likes. So when you talk about infrastructure, our party or movement is based on people infrastructure. That's a difference.
A reflection on your amazing X factor and your leadership, and you've just got the moves and the strut? Or is it that, I don't know, do you think that's the proof that the message is resonating with people? How do we know it's not just you? How do we know you're just not charismatic?
I think number one is, what I always say in my broadcast is be calm, be credible, be factual, and stay on solid ground in how you present. So I think that's number one. It's the tone that I present the information, because I'm not interested in conspiracy. I'm not into conjecture. I'm into proven issues and responding to the concerns around those issues. I think that's number one, is the approach of presenting the information. Number two is is that as I say to people, this movement wasn't born out of an ideology or a pressure group type situation. It was actually born out of a response to saying things that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Kiwis are thinking right now, and they've got behind me.
Billy, let's just quickly go through the main points.
Sure.
Some of the taglines here, freedom and democracy movement. And we'll just go through some of what you stand for. We will rebuild New Zealand back into a democracy. You believe that's been completely blindsided by the COVID-19 response. And this has been used, with stealth to try and erode democracy and transparency, do you?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's proven. I've studied law and the process of reading bills into law. I've done that for a number of years, and that's been absolutely evaded the democratic process by this government. And that's something that every New Zealander should be very concerned, because when you have a democratic society like New Zealand and you have a government in power that introduces law without the requisite scrutiny and oversight by select committees, by the public themselves, then you've got a real issue. And when you have, let me finish, Brian. When you have a COVID-19 health response bill, which goes into law and allows authorised persons, in inverted commas, to enter your property at any time to take you and your family without warrant and detain them and force a medical procedure on them, that's a major, major concern.
Right, you believe we need to have a constitution?
Definitely, because what restrains governments from overreach is the strength of the constitutional framework. And what we've seen revealed now is that there are no such things in place to protect New Zealand citizens, and that's of major, major concern. I mean, and then on top of that, you have the government now trying to introduce 15 new bills, and one of them includes an amendment to the New Zealand Bill of Rights, which is the untouchable document. And you can't.
There's just a few areas here where maybe we've used as marginalised, because here's the thing: I'm a staunch believer of the freedom of speech, and my heart warms. But obviously, where possible, I do listen to what dentists have to say, and if the health ministry recommends fluoride and vaccines. But I respect free choice. I really get the impression when it comes to public health, like you're concerned about 5G. Are you completely anti-vax, or you just want people to have free choice?
That's exactly it, Brian. Have free choice. That's the issue. The issue is around the medical science around vaccinations. That is, of course, controversial, but what is not controversial is the idea around freedoms around it: medical sovereignty, health sovereignty, and having the freedom of choice. And what this government is working towards is the potential framework to be able to force vaccinate people, and that's something that New Zealand citizens can't stand for. All
right. I have to ask this one. Look, you are smart, you've studied law, you're a musician, you speak well, and you've investigated, but at the end of the day, you don't have a PhD in that word that I struggled to pronounce, epidemiology. It's you against, and we don't have time to talk about it because I watched it at length. We don't have time to talk about the Imperial College of London and Bill Gates and what's happening and the guy that cries wolf, Professor Neil Ferguson. But at the end of the day, you're a lay person. So your investigations versus the whole Ministry of Health and Dr. Ashley Boom, it's a big ask to go with your interpretation rather than the government and the Ministry of Health, Billy.
Okay, I think the most easiest way to destroy that position is this way, is answer like this. Bill Gates, who's Mr. Let's globally vaccinate the world, what medical epidemiology degree has he got?
Well,
it doesn't have one, does he, Brian?
He was the richest man in the world, wasn't he?
No, hold on, that's not the question. What epidemiology degree has he got?
Well,
none.
Yes,
that's my point.
Taken.
Can you take that as a point?
Yeah,
thank you. No, there's no rebutting that position, my dear friend. Respectfully to you, of course. But what I can say is, Brian, is that I'm a big fan of Dr. Simon Thornley from Auckland University, an absolute fundamental genius around epidemiology, and his team of associates that wrote the Plan B document. And these scientists that are our very own spoke up loud and clear that they did not agree with the response narrative to the COVID-19 health crisis. And then, of course, when you examine Dr. Bloomfield's history as a WHO executive of infectious diseases staff member, you start to see that really that what he is putting out is a doctrine around unproven medical information, which has been
So
substantiated
are you
by
encouraged, even though
Neil
the
Ferguson.
media here regards him as a tosser, and he is the most powerful man in the world, are you encouraged by the sceptical position of Donald Trump, who was wishing to withdraw the funding for the World Health Organization and did describe the virus as the Chinese virus, or he didn't go as far as you were saying as a bioweapon, but the most powerful man in the world portrayed in the mainline media as a conspiracy theory and a tosser, the President of the United States of America. So you're not completely alone, are you, Billy?
Well, I think let's examine who's calling him a tosser. Number one, our own Prime Minister is, and she's the very one that is basing the whole COVID-19 response on this faulty information that's been called out. Number two is that Donald Trump himself has actually halted the Bill Gates vaccination program investigation plan for the United States. He's halted funding to the WHO. He's removed Dr. Anthony Fauci, who was Mr. Vaccination, National Director of the National Institute of Health. He's removed all those people based on solid evidence and the fact that the information and the narrative that was first provided to the global unit to confront COVID-19 has proved without foundation and credible basis. So he's removed all those people in funding, and I think we need to take note of that.
Billy, I probably should have asked this at the very beginning, and then people would have watched the first 5 minutes. Open question. Sure. Why vote for the New Zealand Public Party?
Well, number one, it's a sensible... Yeah, sure. We are a sensible people's movement. The things that concern New Zealanders right now, number one is rights and freedoms. Number two is government transparency and accountability. Number three, public safety. Number four, having the economic experience and access to expertise that will get us out of this mess of a financial situation that we are in right now. And when you have a government that announces a $50 billion budget to fix the economy and doesn't know what to do with 20 billion of that, that's a major reason to distrust this government. And what we advocate is expertise, logic, and protections of democracy as the founding pillars behind our party. And it's a public movement that the people demanded, and that's what we're responding to.
Billy, with roughly 80 days to go, what do you reckon you'll get? I think the New Conservative Party is hitting 1% along with the Māori Party. What do you reckon you're going to get? The Destiny Church or Destiny New Zealand Party in 2005 got 0.62%. How do you think the New Zealand Public Party is going to go with about 80 days left?
Okay, so some quick numbers. Number one, so some of the other parties that you mentioned, like the Outdoors Party, they're tracking at 0.01%, so 0.1%. So they're not doing very well at all. So what we've done is we're very real. We've got some fantastic experienced political people in our team that are working the things out, strategy, etc. And what we've seen is we've had over 700,000 people peer into our program and the message that we're saying. Out of that number, about 98% of that and slightly more are positive, and the feedback is very strong. But we've worked out that if we were only able to convert 30% of that would give us over 10%, just over 10%, and the number of MPs to go with that. One of the other things that we're taking seriously is the fact when parties first emerge to become become political parties, they need 500 odd registered members, and that normally takes months, if not a year or two, to get that. We did it in 2 days. We did 700 people in 2 days. A week and a half later, after that, we're now at 2,200 registered members. So the momentum can't be planned that we've got, Brian. It's something that we will optimise, but it's an organic people's movement, and that's the difference. We're expecting good things. We're being smart, and we in our approach to optimising the momentum and the organic nature of this, and we think we're going to go way past 5%. And
should the crisis disappear quickly, and I don't think it will, and let's say people vote for you, how do we know we're not just voting for what I call an emergency response party?
Cool. So that's easy to answer that, because we're not a one-trick pony party. The issues that we have here, they're endemic in the government and the parliamentary system that manages our country. So even if the COVID-19 health crisis vanished, there would still be major residual issues that need to be fixed, so that the government ends up serving the people and not the people serving the government. And those are the issues that are very important to this movement. They sit in the heart of the party politic, if you like. and what the people are saying. And the people of New Zealand are speaking to us loud and clear, and large numbers of them. They want to fix it up. And the COVID-19 health crisis really was the straw that broke the camel's back to push this movement forward.
Well, Billy, appreciate your time. Thank you for standing. I think democracy is well served. We've given you the oxygen. I have to acknowledge there's definitely some momentum, and I understand when you had your rally in New Plymouth on Sunday evening, despite despicable weather and all that, you had a good crowd. Is that right?
It was absolutely jam-packed, Bryan. New Plymouth, Taranaki absolutely turned out. But all our meetings, we've done 7 of them so far, Bryan, and every one of them are chocker to the gills. I turn up and, quite frankly, I walk into these big, massive ballrooms and conference centres, and I think, how the heck are we going to fill this up? And hey presto, it's chocker like that every night. And it just, you know...
Should reserved parkia be uncomfortable that people are standing up and giving you a standing ovation? Is that what's going on? I mean, we're not used to that. I mean, should we be frightened by that?
No. I think really what it is, I think part of that is relief and respite from the very real concerns. Bryan, I get hundreds of emails and messages every day from New Zealanders, all sorts of New Zealanders that are absolutely desperately concerned at the behaviour of this government. They're frightened, they're concerned, and they're worried about the economy, they're worried about their rights and freedoms, and they're worried about a Bill Gates vaccine needle being forced into their baby's arms. And that's why they're getting behind this message, because I offer them hope. Real hope is someone that takes the affairs and puts it into an action plan to solve them and prevent those concerns being realised more fuller than what they are today.
And if people come to your rallies, are you resorting to a little bit of blues music, or is it all talking?
It's all talking, but funny you should say that, Bryan. I've had a few people that have said to me they expected to walk in and have me at least play a couple of blues tunes or a couple of Stevie Ray Vaughan numbers, but no, it's pretty much down to business for the main part of the cause. But however, I have said to myself that when we get into government, we will have to have a big party and play some blues guitar for all our supporters and friends.
All right, and a shout out to Hillary Cleft, who we will profile in the days to follow. Wishing you all the best, and thank you very much for your time today.
My absolute pleasure, and all the best to you, Bryan, and the News Talk team in Taranaki. Thank you.